I'm going to tell you something that nobody in Westminster and the corridors of power are going to tell you. Britain is being invaded. Since 2018, more than 135,000 people have entered Britain illegally, enough to fill a city the size of Exeter. And they're joining more than 1.2 million people who have entered the country illegally, enough to fill a city the size of Birmingham. Now, if you look at Home Office data, 70% of all people coming over on the small boats crossing the Channel are young men. And they're coming mainly from Muslim countries: Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Eritrea. This invasion is undermining our laws. This invasion is undermining our community. It's costing us billions of pounds, and most importantly, it's putting the British people and our children at risk. Some of the people coming over are genuine refugees, but many are not. A not insignificant number are going on to murder, rape, sexually assault and abuse British people. I think it's high time somebody called this out, because that's what the British people deserve: honesty and respect. Now, throughout history, Britain has always fought off invasions. We're one of only a few countries that has not been successfully invaded for about 1,000 years. So why is it that we can't stop this one? Well, the answer is many of the people in the expert class, the politicians, the journalists, the academics, the civil servants, they don't want to stop this invasion. They're fully invested in the status quo. I don't think that's good enough. My name's Matt Goodwin. I'm an academic, I'm a writer. I'm part of a community of more than 50,000 people at Matt Goodwin's Substack who are fed up and frustrated with this status quo. We want change and we want it now. So over the next few minutes, what I'm going to do is show you why this invasion is taking place, how it's taking place. I'm going to show you how we got into this mess, why we're still in this mess. But most importantly of all, I'm not just going to complain. I'm going to give you a credible, compelling answer to this invasion. I'm going to tell you, because nobody in Westminster is going to tell you, how we stop it, how we end it, because that's what the British people deserve. They deserve respect, they deserve decency, they deserve honesty. So let's begin. Welcome to Calais, France. This is where the invasion begins. The people who enter Britain illegally have already passed through multiple safe countries like this one. France is a safe country. They are not facing immediate peril, they're not in immediate danger, and they have no right to enter our country illegally. So why do they want to come to the UK? Because, if I'm being honest with you, we're a soft touch. We give them welfare, we give them housing, we give them money, we give them a low wage, low skill, Deliveroo economy where they can find work. We embrace them with open arms. So more of them come. Now, some people say, well, if we were in the European Union, it would be easier to stop this invasion. But that's nonsense. Those people don't know what they're talking about. Under the so-called Dublin Convention, more refugees and illegal migrants were transferred into Britain than were transferred out. And look across the European Union today. Does it really look like the EU has got its arms around this crisis? Germany, Italy and others are doing all they can to get around EU laws and regulations so they can deport dangerous criminals from Afghanistan and Syria who are murdering, raping and assaulting their citizens. Why are they doing that? Because some of these people are genuine refugees, but quite a few of them hate who we are. So what about the French? Well, they could stop this crisis, they could stop this invasion overnight if they really wanted to. Look around. 6 or 7 beaches just like this one is where the gangs are operating, where the boats are leaving from. We know where they are, we know how they work, and we know where they're heading. The white cliffs of Dover just over there, England just over there. And the French, they could stop this crisis if they really wanted to. They could put buoys in the sea to disrupt the boats, they could flood these beaches with police and the army. But they don't want the migrants back. Even when they find them in French waters, they turn them towards the UK. So look, this is not just about border control, it's not just about maritime law, this is about politics. You, the British taxpayer, are paying the French hundreds of millions of pounds every year to stop an invasion they are failing to stop, with a police force that is specifically dedicated to this issue. So listen, we have to stop looking to the French for an answer. We're going to have to find an answer for ourselves. Many people say, why can't we just be like Australia? Why can't we just turn the boats back? Well, it's not that simple. In Australia, the more seaworthy boats are in international waters, which makes it easier for Australia to deal with the crisis. It's not like this. This is a complex shipping lane. It's a patchwork of UK and French waters. In Australia, politicians did what needed to be done. They passed tough laws, they changed the constitution, they created a watertight legal regime. They're processing illegal migrants offshore. So journalists, activists, campaigners, they can't get anywhere near them because migrants are being dealt with outside of the judicial system in Australia. Here it's completely different, and the people smugglers know that. They know we're not going to let people drown in the channel because that would be breaking international law. So we go and we pick them up and we bring them back to the UK. And so what happens is the gangs, the illegal migrants, the boats, they just keep on coming. So now the small boats have arrived in the UK, and everybody who's arrived on them has arrived illegally. They've left the safe country of France. They've destroyed their paperwork on the way. They're in unseaworthy vessels. They've left from an unauthorized point. Now, because France won't take them back, and because many of them come from what we call unsafe countries, the last government came up with something called the Rwanda Plan. The idea was simple and correct. Anybody who arrives in Britain illegally will not be allowed to stay in Britain. They will be sent to Rwanda and have their claims processed there. This is like Australia had an active deterrent with Christmas Island. The only problem is that Rishi Sunak's Rwanda plan wasn't watertight. In order to make it work, it had to be able to override things like the European Convention on Human Rights and Tony Blair's Human Rights Act. Rishi Sunak's plan didn't do that. The Conservatives were never tough enough on this issue. And so as a result, even if they'd won the election, the illegal migrants sent to Rwanda would have used the courts and activist lawyers to file legal claim after legal claim and stop themselves being sent to Rwanda. What happens next? Well, the Conservatives lose the election, Labour come in, and they remove the Rwanda plan. So now we have no active deterrent. We're all the way back to step one. We have no way of discouraging people from making the journey. We have no serious plan for smashing the gangs. Public trust is collapsing. Public confidence is collapsing. You might as well go to the White Cliffs of Dover and put a big neon sign on them saying, Britain is open for business, come on in. The conservative thinker Thomas Sowell once said, immigration laws are the only laws that are ever discussed in terms of how to help people break them. And that is exactly what the Labour Party and the Labour government are now doing. They're talking about immigration laws in terms of how to help illegal migrants break them. And you know who suffers from that the most? It isn't the politicians in Westminster, it's you, the British people. Welcome to Britain's newest luxury resort, only you're not invited, unless that is you happen to have broken into the country illegally. It's hotels and accommodation like this that are costing the British taxpayer upwards of £8 million a day, costing the British taxpayer upwards of £7 billion a year. That's how much this crisis is costing us. To put that in perspective, that's enough for 200,000 nurses' salaries for a year, or 200,000 police officers' salaries for a year. This is where deportations go to die, where hotel chains like Britannia are making upwards of £100 million from this crisis, and where law firms up and down the country are also gaming the system, making an entire industry out of this invasion. They blame the Home Office for delays, but then they file legal claim after legal claim, judicial review after judicial review to stop us from removing these people from our country. They're undermining our national sovereignty. They're undermining the safety of the British people. Now let me be straight with you. We're funding an invasion of our own country. We're paying the French. We're bringing the migrants in. We're giving them housing. We're giving their children a place in the education system, free school meals. We're giving them a phone. We're giving them a cash card. We're giving them eye tests, dental care. We're giving them welfare support. Even the French are saying we're a soft touch, and that's why they're still coming. We're giving them legal aid. We're allowing them to undermine our laws. And I think when the British people look at this, they think this is absolutely crazy. And the truth of the matter is governments on both the left and the right have created this mess. This is all our own doing. And even worse, we're funding the charities and the lobbyists who are actually undermining this system by wanting to keep the status quo and then threatening to sue the government when people say, actually, we'd like a strong border. And I think those people have had enough. Welcome to the Supreme Court, a creation of New Labour in the 2000s and another roadblock to keeping you, the British people, safe and secure in your own country. Now look, the lawyers, the courts would ultimately have to respect any laws that are made in Parliament, and it's in Parliament where we're going to fix this mess. But many of the laws that have been passed in that building behind me are full of exceptions, compromises and loopholes that have allowed an activist legal class in the courts to put international laws and conventions ahead of the national community and the national interest. So who is ultimately responsible for this invasion, this disaster? It isn't the people on the boats, it isn't even the gangs who are smuggling them, and it isn't the hard-working, tax-paying British people. It's the politicians over there, the people who have forgotten that they derive their power, their authority and their legitimacy not from elites in other countries, but from the British people. They could stop this invasion tomorrow if they really wanted to. They could pass those tough laws tomorrow if they really wanted to. They could respect you, the British people, if they really wanted to. Much like they threw everything that the state has to solve another major national crisis, the COVID pandemic. But they don't want to solve this crisis because this isn't just about policy. This is also about an elite class that now pursues policies like mass immigration and open borders to win applause and a sense of moral righteousness among other elites, while experiencing very few costs for themselves, but imposing enormous costs on everybody else. It isn't going to be their kids who are raped and sexually assaulted by illegal migrants, and it isn't going to be their communities that are torn apart and upended by a policy that nobody in this country ever voted for. And now we're seeing the same old song and dance from a new radical Labour government, which is talking about fast-tracking asylum claims and removing people from the country. But we've seen all of this before, haven't we? Nobody thinks Labour's plan for smashing the gangs is going to work because we're going to have to rely on other countries to help us do that. And as we've seen, we can't rely on other people to help us stop this invasion. And the moment you smash one gang, another one just pops up to fill its place. Becomes a game of whack-a-mole. And I've yet to meet anybody in the immigration system, the border system, who thinks that Labour's plan is going to work. So with soft laws and no active deterrent, the small boats are still coming in record numbers, and they'll continue to come in record numbers. The border force is overwhelmed, we haven't got enough detention spaces because governments in the past didn't prepare for this. At the same time, the Home Office isn't working as an effective government department, it's lost control of this crisis. And then we've got an activist legal profession which is exploiting our soft laws, exploiting the status quo to stop us from deporting foreign nationals and getting our arms around this crisis. In fact, many lawyers and courts are hoping the Home Office will let most of the illegal migrants stay, which they do, and the more of them who stay, the more of them who come. And round we go. So what have we seen? We've seen a system that's in crisis. We've seen an elite class that's no longer representing or even respecting the British people. We've seen a country that's coming undone. So what would I do to stop this invasion? Here's what I'd do. I'd reform or repeal Tony Blair's Human Rights Act and replace it with something else. and I'd leave the European Convention on Human Rights so that, like Australia and New Zealand and Canada and other nations, we can actually control who is coming in and out of our own country. I'd also create an active deterrent whereby we process illegal migrants and refugees outside of Britain, away from the British people and our children. That's ultimately what we need to do to keep the British people and our children safe. And if we do that, there'll be a very different sign on the White Cliffs of Dover. Britain is no longer a soft touch. If you come here illegally, we will remove you. We will process you elsewhere, and if you are not a genuine refugee, we will deport you. We will send you to another country. That is ultimately what treating people with respect looks like, and that is ultimately what the British people and our children and our ancestors who fought for this country deserve. I think we should get on with doing that right now. So if you're interested, you'll find me online, join me, join our community, and let's end this invasion once and for all. Thank you. If you want more content like this, if you want more videos like this, it's crucial you join me at mattgoodwin.org, more than 50,000 like-minded people. Look, if you're part of a bigger community, you can have serious influence and power, so come and join us. Share this video with your friends and family, hit like and subscribe, do all the usual stuff, all right? Because this is how we change things. Be part of something bigger than yourself. Right now, I'm going to take the team right over there, Winston Suite, we're going for a pint, so I will see you soon.